you listen to their stories, you will never find the truth.
Find the truth.
And if you read what they are writing, you find your neck inside a noose.
Welcome to Extreme Brains, the podcast that embraces the chaos of a world gone wild. I'm David Evanoff, along with my fellow brainers and chaos enthusiasts, Sam Goldstein and James Woods. We are broadcasting to you from the semi-luxurious Evanoff Studios, located on the west side of the over-industrialized haven of South Salt Lake City, Utah. South Salt Lake City, Utah, the only place you can be south and west at the same time. Each week we'll dive headfirst into the absurdities of modern life, sharing sharp critiques, unfiltered humor, and just the right amount of existential dread. Our tagline, 3 voices, 1 mic, in a world gone wild. Welcome back, brainers. So good of you to drop in. And I hope you're all excited for today's topic, your brain on sex. Isn't that what our brains are always on? Dr. Sam.
On sex?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if our brains are always on sex, but let me start by asking you guys a question, and then we'll tell you we couldn't find a guest for today.
Strange.
Because we couldn't find anybody out in the street on Main Street waiting to be picked up. That would be the guest we'd want to bring in,
What
maybe.
about one of these construction guys?
Well,
Should I go ask?
There's
Yeah.
construction going on outside the office here, but we haven't. And then the thought is, why bring in an expert? Aren't we all experts on sex at whatever level we experience it? We're all experts per se, and we're all legends in our own mind
Legends
when we think about sex. But let me start by asking you guys a question. Can you imagine a universe and a world in which there's only one gender, in which organisms simply just copy themselves like amoeba? They just split in half, and then there's 2 of them, and those 2 split, and then there's 4 of them. They don't require a partner. It's a closed system, so there's no new genes that come in, but no genes that go out. It's a closed system. So you tell me, what do you think of? What would you think about a world like that?
Well, being the progressive here in the group, I say let's do it. Let's progress to that point.
You think that's progress?
I do. Let's take the genetic mumbo jumbo of it all and toss that aside and make it a more defined. We're going to go into the office and we're going to split our genes today. And we're going to take me and
suddenly we have offspring.
Yes.
Little Davids.
Little Davids.
They would be just like us.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have
Exact
there's no
copies.
new genetic material. They're going to be copies of us to a point, right?
I say do it.
Yeah, I think Dave is probably a good subject to do that with because we want to be careful of our patient 0 and make sure that we want copies of patient 0.
Well, and Dave makes a point of that for him, evolution is about going from 2 genders back to 1. I don't see how that's. I don't think we could evolve that way. I think we perhaps started as 1, but the bigger question is, what would be the advantage if you copied yourself? Then sex is irrelevant because we're thinking of sex as a verb, right? Mm-hmm. We're not thinking of sex as a noun or a pronoun or a descriptor. He's sexy, but rather sex as an activity. Right? So sex sells, right? We'll come back and answer that question. Why does sex sell? But before there was sex, there were one-celled organisms that split, and then more complicated organisms. What would be the advantage if we were all the same? Well, there'd be we'd all be exactly the same, so there'd be no fighting over who's better, who's smarter, who's bigger, who's greater. perhaps. It would be easy to control the size of the population. David, you can't split up today. Sorry. Your time to split is next week.
That's right.
We could control the population. But wouldn't life be boring?
Yeah,
There'd be no romance.
would it be as fun?
Well, sex doesn't go away. It's just purely recreational.
Oh, so there's still going to be two genders?
Yes.
Oh, no. That wasn't my question. My question, there's one gender.
There's just
And
one.
that gender splits itself. There's not two genders.
Well, sex still doesn't go away.
Who do you have sex with?
Whoever you want. Because there are other individuals, whatever our gender is,
Oh.
the option is still there.
Except that there'd be no sex drive.
Drive.
You wouldn't. There'd be no reason. I mean, again, this is a hypothetical, so we can get way out on a limb here. But the earliest species just copied themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And there are still some lizards do that. They just make copies of themselves. But most even of those species, like the mayfly, have progressed to kind of a hybrid state. A hybrid is, I think, maybe is the best state, but they copy themselves, mayflies, till the last mating of the season before winter. And then they go look for a mate. Because that allows them to get a few genes from their mate that they don't perhaps have. And so it increases survival. I mean, the downside, you wonder how we got here today if we started by asexual reproduction, just copying ourselves. The chance of survival is dramatically reduced because if there's something that adversely affects one of us, it will adversely affect all of us. And then we're gone.
And then would there be a need for mates at that point?
No, but so if it starts as we're splitting ourselves, then why do we have another gender? Now, I think that the second gender, the first gender, because it could copy itself, had to be a female. You have to consider itself as a female because females bring life, males do not. And that first gender then, in a way to enhance survival, decided, make it sound like it was a conscious thought, but decided, what if there was a second gender whose job it was to just carry all those extra genes for us, but they didn't do anything else. Maybe they did the dishes, took out the garbage, but other than that, they didn't do anything else. So, alligators and crocodiles lay eggs that have no gender. And the temperature of the sand determines the ratio of the gender. So, if the temperature of the sand suggests good climate, then there are far more males and fewer females. Because their progeny will survive, more likely to survive. The temperature's good, the weather is good, all things being equal. And therefore the females have a better choice of, well, I like that guy. Look at the muscles on his legs, right? But if it's the other way around, if the temperature suggests that the climate is not good for raising little baby crocodiles or alligators, then you get fewer males and many more females. And they're a polygamous species, so they'll mate with anyone. We can get to that talking about why some, like geese, mate for life like human beings. Theoretically, geese don't get divorced because they don't have a culture that allows them to do that. But you mate for life. We mate for life, right? So there's an interesting evolutionary quirk where evolution has said, hey, we're not even going to decide the gender when the eggs are hatched. We're going to decide the gender based on the temperature, that there are certain genes that'll make that call, however that's done, right?
Right.
But the question is, we've got this one gender. Women invent men. Men carry sperm. The sperm is a tiny little thing. The egg is big. The egg carries what's referred to as mitochondria DNA, all kinds of DNA of other one-celled organisms that live in our body, without which we couldn't survive in our gut and other parts of our body. A lot of people don't realize that, but it is the case. And so if you take two eggs and you combine them electrically to a process called atomoxis, you can actually make an organism. We haven't done it with people. They do it with animals. But you can make an organism. But two sperm can't even go out for a beer. There's nothing two sperm can do. They have the chromosomes that carry the genes, but they don't have all the other stuff you need. That's why the egg is so big. Have you ever seen the size of the egg versus the sperm? There's that picture of hundreds of sperms, and the egg is the size of the sun.
Yeah.
And the sperm are like you can barely see them, and they're trying to push their way in, and eventually one of them pushes his way in, and, okay, mama, here we go. And that's sex, right? So now women create men to carry these extra genes around. And men create aggression as one of the ways they fight amongst themselves, or they compete amongst themselves to get the best women. So men in other species and in the 1600s wore flamboyant hair and big colors, and we think of that as, quote, feminine, but it was the way of attracting birds with fancy feathers and male birds that dance around, and peacocks and all that other stuff, right? And then we came upon aggression, and we would fight with each other, and the biggest and the strongest got the harem of women. So in my story, the world is screwed up. Men are aggressive, but the world is screwed up because of women. If they were more accepting of us, we wouldn't have to fight amongst ourselves. If there was a more willingness to share. Anyway, so that takes us to this kind of overview of why sex, and our second section will be talking about sex as a cultural phenomena, this idea of sex sells. And finally, as always, we'll ask the question, would we be better off if we treated sex like dogs? Like dogs. So now let me ask you. We've decided that an asexual organism can't evolve. It's going to be a problem. So now we create a broader gene pool, and we have gender. And what's the brain's role in all that? Because sex takes place below the waist, last time I heard. I mean, I guess there are some sexual acts that men particularly like that take place above the neck for women, but still below the waist for men. But how does the brain facilitate this process? And the other thing that I think is the litmus point to keep in mind is that very few species engage in sex for pleasure. There's a few, like monkeys, I think.
Monkeys.
Some
dolphins.
monkeys, maybe dolphins. I don't know enough about it, but I will tell you that most do not. Most only engage in sex to procreate. And evolution has granted the male in most species the opportunity to sniff out the estrus of the female and know when the female is in heat. And the only time those animals, the majority of animals, have sex is when the female is in heat. Otherwise, it's like, what am I wasting my time for? This is not going to produce another little me. The only time I want to have sex with you is when I'm going to be able to make another me. And then the brain gets in the middle. Because in our species, we can't tell when a woman is ovulating. Wouldn't that be something if I guess we could create a movie script in which the guy was able to know when women were ovulating, right?
Well, do our phone apps, do they really work?
You mean
2 years ago, while I was trying to have a little me, we were tied to applications on our phone and on our calendar and on our, because it was all about knowing when ovulation was going to happen.
The prime time.
But that required technology.
Right.
Yeah, this is pre-technology.
Okay.
There's no technology. So one of the ways to look at this is to say, well, I never know when you're going to be ovulating, so I'm going to have sex with you every day. Right? It's a way of ensuring that one of those days we're going to hit a home run, and we'll have to have sex the other days. But so much sex. Now, some listeners may say, well, that's not bad. I could have sex every day, But still, every day, day after day. And remember, it's not It's not like dress up like a maid and a policeman or a mailman and have sex. It's just have sex and let's get on with it, right? Let's go. That's not going to work. So hence, the brain took an interest. And the brain said, I wonder if we could enjoy sex, not just have sex. Can you imagine? We've talked about the men sitting around the cave a million years ago, and one man developing a mindset, insight. Why am I here? Right? Can you imagine the same cavemen sitting around the cave, and the other guys have had sex, and they're not thinking anything about it, and you're the guy who has a little bit of thought about it, and you turn to the other guys and go, "Did you like that? Wasn't that good?" And they look like you. What are you talking about? That wasn't fun. That was hard work. Boom, 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 boom. This is hard work. Oh my God! And she doesn't. And you understand that up until not long ago, sex was one position: man behind women. We think of missionary, but no, man behind women. There's a great film with Ray Don Chong, Quest for Fire. We've talked about it before, of these 3 cave-era guys who have ADHD who let the fire go out, and the group doesn't know how to make fire. They know how to keep fire going. So now they have no fire. So the chief sends the 3 guys to go find fire, and they wander around for a while, and they find another group of people who live inland on the coast and who don't eat them, who are a little more civilized and a little more advanced, and they teach them how to make fire. And then these haphazard guys go back, and they come back with no fire. And the chief says, well, you guys are going off the cliff. And in response, the one guy takes out a little pouch with a flint and some kindling, and he lights a fire. And now those 3 guys are the gods, the chief is thrown off the cliff. But my favorite part of the movie with Ray Don Chong is the guy wants to have sex. One of the guys wants to have sex with her, and he tries to get behind her. And she's pushing him away. No, And he doesn't get it. And she turns around and faces him and sits down on his lap, and his eyes light up. Oh, you can have sex like this? Oh, my goodness. And hence was the Kama Sutra. You can have sex in 100 different ways, right? So I think that in order to make it work, in order to say, I don't know when you're going to be ready to have a baby, so I'm going to have a lot of sex with you, we have to add something to that formula. And what we add is, it's pleasurable.
The chemistry.
I enjoy it, right? Quote, the chemistry, as they say. I enjoy it. But the reality is, maybe men enjoy it more than women. But that makes perfect sense, because men have to seek out women to do it. Now, some women may seek out men, but most women don't. You know, the Paula Poundstone, the comedian, I like to give everybody their intellectual credit. She tells a story about how when a woman tells a man to take his clothes off, they're off. And when a man tells a woman to take her clothes off, he gets a smack in the face. Right? So there's some differences in how much pleasure do you actually derive. And, and we can then consider, sex being about survival, right? Pass your genes on, but sex being around social bonding, and hence love. Again, that first caveman, we should film a series of these. We'll just call it the first. And that same caveman sitting around the cave, and he looks at this woman that probably other men have worked at impregnating as well, because I suspect we started in a polygamous way and then became monogamous for whatever reasons. And the size of your organ is related. That animals that are polygamous, not monogamous, have larger units. Believe it. Yeah. It's, you can search it there and see if I'm right. But
don't put that on your history.
Yeah, that's gonna go on my Google search.
So
I do have a Google contract with my
but
friends.
imagine that first man who's who says, "Well, did you enjoy the sex?" Yeah. And then he's sitting there, and he has this feeling that kind of comes over him, this warm, pleasant feeling, and he goes, "I don't know what this is, but I think I love you." Right? I mean, imagine the first guy who said that to the first woman who slapped him in the face. What do you mean you love me? What the heck is that? Let's have sex. We need to have babies. Come on, let's get going. Right?
There's 2 others waiting.
There's 2 right. Maybe there's 2 others waiting. So what starts as a way of maintaining the species, right? Life has one purpose. Pass your genes to a younger person and keep that evolutionary process going. What started that way, as we evolved, wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work the way it worked for lions and tigers and bears or dogs. That again, because we don't know when our females are in estrus, we got to have more sex. And when you do things a lot, you habituate, you get tired of it. I'm not having any more sex. Believe it or not. See, it's hard for you, James, to believe that. But
It is.
Yeah, but it's possible. So now evolution said those people who take pleasure in it, who derive some pleasure in the process, well, they're going to be more likely to pass their genes along to the next generation. And when we come back from the break, we can start with orgasms. Because orgasms was the ultimate way that the brain created to keep us having sex.
Thank you, Brain.
Yeah, that's where the chemistry comes in, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Sam. Brainers, we're going to take a little break. And while we do, enjoy this cut from the album From the Fringes of My Mind by the band Sigmund Freud. Available on all of your streaming services right now.
Call you up, it's just a simple thing. A broken charge, a return to bring. But now I'm lost in a looping tone. It feels like forever, and I'm all alone. Your call is important, please hold tight. But this whole music don't feel right. Hello, can you hear me on the line? Stuck in limbo, losing track of time. Out-of-tone blues echo in my mind. Disconnected, love so hard to find.
Thank you, band Sigmund Freud. I tried to pick one of our most romantic songs. So,
Set the mood.
your brain on sex.
The lights are dim in here.
Automatically. We have the technology. All right,
Correct.
Sam. Help us out here.
Well, when we last parted ways before the break, I teased you with the idea of orgasm being the ultimate way to ensure that people would pursue sexual activity. Now, just think for a minute about a bunch of things. One, sex is power. Because the most aggressive males, the most powerful males, they got the harem. They controlled reproduction. And so sex is power in politics, in religion, in our society, right? You ask people, who are you going to vote for president? The good-looking guy, right? Who do you trust more as your dentist? The good-looking guy or girl or whatever the case may be. You know, I do think that well, personally, I think that anybody who says, oh, no, physical appearance doesn't really mean anything to me is not telling the truth. Even Mother Teresa said, you know, you got to look at who you're looking at. And so I do think that what then ends up happening is this idea of sex as a product of procreation becomes about survival, becomes about society, and we've built a civilization around sex, not because anybody forced us to, but because we could. We could, right? So reproduction is the most important thing. You say, well, I want my children to grow up and be happy. I want them to be educated. I want them, but really what I want them to do is grow up and have children of their own and procreate, as it were. And so now we see a lot of things happening over a few thousand years. We see this idea of sexual phenomena becoming a big part of culture, right? Didn't early Romans or other societies, they'd have vestal virgins who would be sacrificed, or you'd have sex with them, sex was an integral part of early civilizations.
Certainly even early cave paintings
depict
sex.
Right, depict sexual
Our
activities.
art,
That's right.
Early human
Right.
art was, adopting sex as a
prehistoric porn.
Right, and then we get industries that arose around them. Look at what's happened on the internet. I don't know about you, but I'm astounded by. So here comes the internet. Let's go back maybe 20 years ago. And the internet starts and everyone goes, oh, there won't be any sex on the internet. Oh, no.
It was one of the first things, I think.
Well, but it was hardly accessible. You had to pay for it. It was people saw it as an industry, right? And but if you did a search initially, you might find some girls in bikinis, but you couldn't find sex. You couldn't find sexual X-rated, XX-rated kinds of pornography. And if you did, it was always actors, right? And then everybody became the actor. So now, if you hit certain keywords, you get all of these sites. I know because some of the kids I've worked with have gotten into trouble. And with one keystroke, you're on a page where there are, 50 different little images of ordinary people engaged in sexual activities. And you can click on one of them and you can watch it. And you don't have to pay anything. And then the voyeurism is such that if you pay, they'll talk to you, right? Or that idea of, being able to interact with the participant engaged in the activity. So tell me an industry where sex, from how attractive you are to other people, which may be a far reach for sex, to actual sexual activity. Tell me any area in our lives that isn't pervaded by this.
I can't think of one.
I can't, either. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And the digital industry, from dating apps to what's that site? OnlyFans, right? To it's and you see these news stories, right, where this teacher got fired because she made extra income by being on OnlyFans and had 100,000 followers that were paying to watch her take her clothes off or whatever. Isn't that interesting? Like voyeurism, watching others. Sex is not just procreation, but an entertainment.
One of the biggest.
Right? One of the biggest. And if you said, imagine if you said to we should not talk about dogs to the last section, but imagine if you said to your dog who just finished having sex with a partner that he knew was ready to have babies, come on over here and let's watch other dogs having sex. He would go, you got a bone? He's not interested at all. But somehow we're entertained. We entertain vicariously, maybe. So it's almost like evolution has gone too far. That in an effort to ensure that we procreate, the brain has involved this elaborate system for attraction to sex and orgasms. And I am not an orgasm expert by any shape or form. So you guys jump in.
Still in training.
I'm still in training. But what's the advantage of an orgasm? Now, for a man, there's an advantage because that's at the point at which you ejaculate your sperm, right?
And the process begins.
And the process begins. But is there really an advantage for a woman to have an orgasm? Nothing really. Isn't it like eggs are dropped when she has an orgasm? I think. I'm not Dr. Ruth, so we can channel Dr. Ruth and see if we could get her to join us today.
Should have got AI Dr. Ruth.
An AI Dr. Ruth, yes. Maybe you'll get on AI and ask what Dr. Ruth would say. And during the break, we'll look up some things about what would Dr. Ruth say about orgasms. But it pervades everything. Isn't it interesting when you really step back and think about it, how the need to reproduce has created such an elaborate, quote, sexual brain and a culture and a society that is permeated by it. And then you throw in religion. Right? So religion, I'm not anti-religion per se, but religion messes around with things that it maybe should mind its own business. So religion gets involved with sex. And religion says, no sex out of wedlock. Well, what the heck is wedlock? It's when two people say, I do. What does that mean? People say, I do all the time. Well, how does that? Are we making cuts and putting blood to blood? I always wondered why nobody's marriage ceremonies, Jews break a glass. I don't know what Mormons do or Catholics do. But I wondered why marriage ceremony isn't somehow more blood to blood, right? And I was watching some documentary when about maybe in the 1700s or 1600s or maybe earlier, that when the king married his queen, that the first sexual encounter between them was observed by the court.
Right.
To prove that they really were engaged and they were really having.
Because it was a political thing at that point. It was like, you have to show us that you're working on our next ruler.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then some people get consumed by it and they can't stop thinking about it and they get overwhelmed. And now addiction, which is wanting to do something that you really enjoy and really like, do more of it, sex fits right in.
Is it an addiction? As you understand addiction?
No. Because without it, you don't really have withdrawal.
Ah.
Right?
Yeah,
so video game playing.
That's a great explanation.
Just because you do something a lot and want to spend all your time doing it, supposing like crochet or whatever, it has to cause you, nowadays, the definition of it has to cause you harm. Harm. So there it fits that. It may well cause you harm. But there's no withdrawal. There's a psychological withdrawal. Same thing with marijuana. There's a psychological withdrawal, but not like an opiate withdrawal. Right? So, again, the bottom line is we have built a civilization around sex. And again, we can touch on religion, and is religion's role, and did religion evolve to keep us, is religion those inflatable bumpers you put on either side of the bowling alley so the ball keeps going down the alley? I mean, the origins of religion was a way to, I think, soften your fear of the unknown. And the theory is that the first religious ideas came about because a farmer put a little pile of rocks out, and lo and behold, it rained. So he said, those rocks somehow made it rain. And, the earliest religions had a god of this, a god of my water bottle, a god of this, a god of... Everything had a god, right? And eventually, that Egyptian, probably before the Jews, the Egyptian pharaoh, who decided there's one god. That's also an interesting phenomena, because if there's one god, he's easy to control. As opposed to if there's 27 gods, how are we going to control them all? And in the Greek, the Greek tragedy, the Greek stories, there's all these different gods. You can't control them. They all conflict with each other. But if there's one, hey, he makes all the decisions and
Easier to follow the rules.
Easier to follow the rules, right? And again, we go back to him creating man based on his failed experiments before, and he says, well, I'm going to make 2 genders, and maybe somebody else says, what about 3? What about 4? What about, let's have more gender? Oh, no. It's too complicated. Well, let's have the 1. Hey, remember that last planet? The 1 didn't work out very well. They were around, 50,000 years, and then they killed each other off because they couldn't survive. So now we have 1 religion, 1 God, right? And again, religion I think religion are the bumpers in the bowling alley. And so they have to have an opinion about sex. No sex outside of marriage. And in some religions, sex is only to reproduce.
Right.
Right? And to make sure that that's the only time you do it, you wear these underwear that are not very attractive, so when you take your clothes off, your partner doesn't go, wow, those are cute underwear. No. And the only time you take them off is when you're going to procreate, and then you put them back on again. Right? So, yeah. And is it bad to have, multiple partners or sex out of wedlock? Only in the eyes of religion or in the eyes of medicine if you're exposing yourself to illness or whatever the case may be. And, that's another interesting phenomena, the rise of sex-related illnesses
right.
as a way of, controlling the population.
It seems like Mother Nature stepped in to do the ultimate job. Like, okay, religion can take its part, but I got this.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Set my own bumpers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. And so if, as we started, we go back to, well, what if we didn't have two genders? Now we have 88 genders or whatever the heck that is. You can be anything you want. The other day, somebody said they wanted to be a violin. Okay, call me violin. All right, you're a violin. But if we say, let's take the sexy out of sex. Let's take the titillation out of sex. Let's somehow evolve a species where sex remains a purpose-driven activity for procreation, period.
Take the hormone dump out of it.
Take the hormone dump. Take, again, that you think about an orgasm, it's pleasurable, so you want to do it again. I mean, that's what the whole purpose is. I mean, imagine if the orgasm was harmful and painful. You'd say, oh, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
Forget it. We're going to be a one-child family if we have a kid. Right? So that's an interesting, I think, take on the whole thing. But imagine that we had a society in which sex was only to procreate, in which sex was not an industry, not a civilization we built around it, but simply an act to procreate.
Well,
so tell me about that society.
I would postulate that it's our big brains that have forced us, because you say, okay, we needed that pleasure to procreate.
Yeah.
As humans evolved, we no longer sat in the same Sahara plain and did the same thing every day and procreated based on a lunar calendar. We were building things and creating things and challenging ourselves, and so our brains said, we gotta compete with all this other stuff, so we're gonna make it the most pleasurable thing.
Yeah, we ramped up the experiment.
Yeah, and so
Right.
we can't fight it. We're never gonna be able to go back.
Right. I don't think we can go back, but the question is, if we were starting over again.
Oh, okay. We're
If this
building our new community.
If this was Sim Homo Sapien, right?
All right.
And we're going to start. I don't know why they never made that game, where you start as a small tribe in Africa, and you have to build
see
your
how far
tribe
you can,
and
yeah.
move to deal with the Neanderthals and see how far you can get. But if we start over again, is this inevitable? In order for the species to evolve and maintain, is it inevitable that sex, that civilizations are built around sex? Can you have a civilization that's not built around sex? I guess if you had a science fiction civilization of a closed group of people who lived forever, and there's no new people and no old people because everybody lives forever, then you don't need sex.
Well, our buddy Ray Bradbury would say there are communities out there in the universe that do, but the human, it's always about sex. Even 10,000 years in the future. James T. Kirk is going to go out and have sex.
With all
Even
the,
as
all the
evolved
aliens.
as we become, it's all about sex.
Right. Well, that's
We're doomed.
us.
Humans, we can't. The human genome is always going to evolve to sex.
Right.
That's my guess.
Okay. So if my experiment's a failure, we say no matter how many times now with AI we could probably have the computer run a simulation of a new species each time and see what happens with the new species. But and in game theory, that's what they do. There's actually these computer programs where they create different tribes of people and they ascribe to them different values. You share, you're selfish, whatever the case may be. And then they run these simulations that over days are simulations that would be the equivalent to thousands of years. And then find out who survives.
Who wins.
Right, and that's the inevitability that you speak to, that in order to win, you have to have an aggressive response to perceived threat. In order to win, you have to be respectful and fearful of difference because it might kill you. To win, you have to be of a belief that you're right and they're wrong. And part of those instincts that we've talked about, this unholy trinity, evolved because of that reason. I mean, I guess we could ask the question, is sex instinctual? So if we had someone that we created who had no history, a human, let's say we have a human and we grow this human in a test tube, and then it's a person, and it knows nothing about the world, nothing about anything, but it has our gene pool. If we put it in a room with an attractive girl at age 18, would it be attracted and aroused, or would it go, who are you? I mean, I think there's some learning that takes place because sex is all around
Over
us.
time, yeah.
Sex is all around us. And so then you get what I call fraying at the fringes. So we all have a sex drive, but then you get some people who are attracted to children, or some people who are interested in sex with animals, or some people who are have a foot fetish and interested in sex with toes, or whatever the case may be.
Or just addicted to sex in general.
Well, or just addicted to having a lot of sex, right? So I see that as fringing around the edges, right? Sure. Because if the species evolved so everyone felt that way, we wouldn't survive. So it's fringing around the edges, and in complex human species, you're going to get that with anything, whatever it is, right? Whether it's an emotion, or whether it's a behavior, or whether it's sex. So, if that's the case, if, as you say, we are on, do you remember that? What was the name of the singer? He's passed away. His song of 20,000 Pounds of Bananas.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, he did Taxi. He did. He died of a heart attack. He died of a heart attack on the freeway in New York.
Bob James.
No.
Who did Taxi?
No, not Bob James. And I don't remember if the song was Taxi or not. He was a storyteller. And he has a song called
Driving in My Taxi.
20,000 pounds. And then just driving in my taxi is this woman gets in the taxi that he had a relationship with years ago.
Right.
And his song is 20,000 pounds.
30,000 pounds.
30,000 pounds of bananas.
Harry
Chapin.
Of course.
Yeah, it's 30,000 pounds of bananas, right? So the truck is going downhill, out of control with 30,000 pounds of bananas. If, as you point out, our species is a truck going downhill with 30,000 pounds of sexual drive, do we just let it keep running? Because if you look, like with the internet, if you look at what's happened on the internet in terms of sexual availability or dating sites or all these other things, and you go 20 years forward with the same, quote, lowering of social standards, how is our species ever going to survive? Right? Mm-hmm. So we can take a break and come back and tell everyone what our solution is to save the world from its own sexual drive.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brainers, for hanging in there with us. We'll be right back after this number from the band Sigmund Freud.
Turn around and I'll be there. Every breath of open air. When the shadows fall and hope seems thin, I'll be the light that draws you in. I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. When silence wraps the world in night, our dreams slip out of sight. Just call my name, feel my care. Turn around and I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. Every tear, every smile, across each step, across each mile. No matter where, no matter when, by your side again and again.
Thank you, Brainers. Welcome back. Here's our final segment where we will solve all of the world's sexual problems. No, we won't. Sam, you can help us out, though.
I can help you out by telling you that during the break, I channeled Ruthie.
Ooh.
And I asked Ruthie two things. I asked her one about orgasms, and she said, because again, Ruthie's not a Darwinist, or wasn't a Darwinist. So she says, orgasms are not just about pleasure, but about communication with your partner.
That sounds just
Which
like
sounds
Ruth.
nice, but it's a fairly West Coast, Rogerian, layback, how are you feeling, good times answer. It doesn't really tell us anything as far as I'm concerned. And then I asked Ruthie what she would say to this statement, sex sells. And her answer was, it's powerful, it grabs attention, but we have to be careful. Just because sex gets people to look doesn't mean it teaches anything useful about real intimacy or healthy sexuality. Because for Ruthie, it was always about bringing it back to, here's how to have good sex. And here's how you should feel. Here's what you think. So Ruth doesn't help us here because we're really taking an evolutionary look at this. Right. So thanks, Dr. Ruth. And we hope you have 3 or 4 of those Australian Thunder from Down Under guys to hang around with up there in heaven. So what have we agreed on? Sex is biological with massive social impact. We evolved to enjoy it, but we also fear it, we worship it, we sell it. And the brain on sex isn't rational, it's strategic. How to get more sex.
Yeah.
This is basically what it comes down to. So I guess the question is, would we be better off if sex was simply an act and not an activity? Would we be better off if sex was kept in the bedroom and not paraded around in front of us? Would we be better off if sex was not tied to love or to intimacy, but in a way that Mr. Spock, in his Vulcan way of looking at it, would say, it's just an act, an important one.
So we'd have to get rid of jealousy.
But it's just an act. We would get rid of jealousy. We would get rid of anything that's associated with it. And jealousy is another interesting one. Bob and I are working on a book on 3 other instincts about how to harness jealousy, lying, and anger, how to harness them to make your life more successful.
Is it an instinct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got the girl, and my genes, if you remember Woody Allen's little movie about his genes, and my sperm are banging on the walls. Hey, get yourself moving. Get that guy. And the ultimate act of sexually related violence is Oedipus, who really can't procreate with his mother, although he doesn't know that, kills his father to get him out of the way. Right? So here we sit, and we have to figure out what to do. So we're tasked with the job. Suppose our sitting president calls us up and says, well, we're cutting back on government spending, and we're cutting back on government waste, and we're making all of these adjustments in how we do things, and we'd like you to head up a committee on how to take sex out of the society. Because we think that sex is responsible for far too many adversities.
Well, we clearly can't put Elon on that.
Right.
14th child.
Right.
But he never talks to anybody about what his thought is. I mean, I think his thought, if I'm Elon, I'm going to say, well, that's 14 children carrying my genes. And if I can have 50 more, that'll be 50 more carrying my genes. And my invested interest is to get my genes passed along. Now, partly he'll say because I'm the smartest guy on Earth and the richest guy on Earth, and therefore probability is my genes are not going to fall far from the tree, yep. And therefore we're going to have I'm making a contribution to society. I'm bringing all of these smart people into the world, but therein lies the whole thing about genetic engineering, which is it was a terrible time when we sterilized people, not just low-functioning people, but certain people of certain color and ethnicity, and because we said they're inferior, right?
There are a lot of people that are trying to repopulate the earth themselves.
Right.
I have a cousin that really believes that.
Yeah, there you go. I want to have as many
Yeah.
children as possible. Okay, but so we've got this committee, and we're going to have our first meeting, and our charge is to take sex out of society. What are we going to do? More legislation? Do we legislate?
Silence there.
Do we legislate? We have tried to legislate.
Absolutely.
So we say movies are going to have ratings.
Mm-hmm. Rock and roll is
Right?
going to have ratings.
Rock and roll is going to have ratings, right? So we're trying to take, well, and for music we'd say profanity probably or whatever, but but definitely visual arts, we're going to put a rating on it. Yeah. And what's the rating all about? Well, the rating is about how much sex or sexual content is in that piece, right?
Video games. Gotta rate those.
Video games, right? And then we say, well, if it's this rating, you have to be this old to see it, which again is kind of an arbitrary who says,
right.
Alexander the Great had conquered half the known world by the time he was 14 or something. So who says? Why do maybe the kids are better off if we...
Well, and I'm going to come back to you, the person that has made a lifetime helping children. What is the age?
I don't know that anybody knows exactly. I do know that as our society has progressed over thousands of generations, puberty is reached at a later and later age. Puberty used to be reached much younger in females than it is now.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we've extended childhood, right? So
Probably not a terrible idea.
no, but remember your lifespan up until just recently, if you lived to 40, that was pretty good. So you better start having children when you're 11 as opposed to when you're 25, because you're only going to live to 40. If you have a child at 25 and you live to 40, you're going to leave that child in the lurch at age 15, although at 15 most kids can fend for themselves if they were taught to do that. Mm-hmm. So, so what do? We create limits on accessibility. You have to be a certain age to see a certain thing or do a certain thing. That's one way we do it. But as you pointed out, David, there's no going back. And you tell people you can't have your sex.
Yeah.
And it's a dystopian world in which I've been watching that series Silo. Have you seen that series?
Sure. Yeah.
Silo, and they actually how do we control it? Maybe not sex, but procreation. We put something in you that will not allow you to have a child. Right? And then we pretend we take it out of you, but we don't really keep it in because we're trying to keep the numbers down in the silo. We only want to produce as many as are going to pass away.
Well, isn't China doing similar?
I don't know what China's up to now, if they're still only one child per family.
Yeah. I think, if I understand, that's gone.
Oh, that is gone.
Yeah. Within the last 10 years.
Right. Well, they were only 1.5 billion people, so... And I think probably of the 1.5 billion, there's probably 1,450 million who are actually nice people. It's the few million who are in charge that are making chaos for everybody, right?
That's generally how it goes.
But you can limit sex. But look at Japan with geishas. Geishas, right? They're sex women, right? Theoretically. How do we do it? And again, it's among the reasons for us to worry. Most species survive before they go extinct about 800,000 to 900,000 years, and then the environment changes enough that the species is gone. We've been around. You can Google it, James, to make sure how long have Homo sapiens been here. But I think it's been about 200,000 years. So can you see us lasting another 500,000 years? Holy cow. 100,000 years, 300,000, right?
300,000.
Yeah. But so at the rate at which we've progressed, and for the first 297,000, life didn't change a whole lot. Or maybe if we go back to the city of Ur, which is 5,000 years ago. So let's go back to 290,000 years. You lived your life at 290,000 as your ancestors did at 200, as their ancestors lived at 100. There was not very little change, and we had big brains.
Yeah.
We had a big brain. So something changed. I think that mutation of self-awareness that we've talked about. But the rate of technological evolution is outpacing human evolution almost at the same rate that viruses can reproduce and outpace us. They reproduce 10,000 times before we can have one child to grow up. And it's a war we lose every time because they mutate and change. So can you imagine? I'm pushing us ahead. Imagine 50 years from now. Go back 50 and look at how much has changed. Go forward 50 and even try and imagine. I mean, it would seem to me 100,000 years from now, if we're still here, we won't have any bodies. We'll just be this is like the Star Trek thing, this amorphous identity that floats around forever.
And avatars, if we need them.
Oh. Right?
If we need them.
Yeah, what was that other series that everything you wore was embedded in this disc and it was put in the back of your neck, and when the body you were in was about to die. I mean, the creativity of our species is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, everything I know about the world was made up. Trying to separate out what wasn't made up from what is made up. But that was an interesting series because you never died.
Yeah.
You were
implanted.
You were implanted in another body, and it was the joke because the one guy was implanted in a female, but he was a male, and he was, But the bodies are just vessels that they grow, and here's a body. You need a new body? Hey, this body's starting to have some problems, and before it gets really too bad, I'm going to go down to the Bodies Are Us, and that's the one where Costco's running it. It's 50,000 years from now, and Costco runs. You walk into the Costco, and they're trying to sell you water heater and air conditioning and all this other stuff, and then there's a guy, Bodies Are Us.
Bodies.
Costco, we make bodies. Look, our bodies are pretty good. Look at our bodies. Come and check out.
Here's a sample.
Here's a sample of our bodies. Our bodies are pretty good.
Take it out for lunch.
Take it out for lunch.
Out for
it
lunch.
expires in a few hours.
That's
right.
So don't be late. We got a film here.
Yeah.
Don't be late.
Right. The body has, no particular use. But even then, imagine if it was even more fluid. We can really get carried away here because it's the last episode of our short season. But imagine if it was even the process of implantation was even simpler. And you could say, for the weekend, I think I want to be this. And you go into the shop and the bodies are all there and you go, I want that one, that really cool, good-looking guy. Tell me about him. Oh, he rides motorcycles and plays polo. Okay, I'm going to be him for the weekend. And they have this device, and it brings the body down off of the stand, and boom.
try it on.
And then they put your body in stasis because you don't want the body you have to. And for the weekend, you're this guy, and you come back. But imagine the people who wouldn't come back. I like this body. I'm not coming back. You can't. And then they'd have the body police who would come looking for you.
Yeah, repo.
Repo. We're going to repo. Well, haven't there been some? There've been some science fiction series where people have their bodies repoed. I think that Schwarzenegger one. What was that one? They remade
Repo
it.
Man.
No, they remade it where he ends up on the moon.
Yeah, and
they,
Mars.
And Mars, and they make him think he's somebody else. Didn't they? They remade that one.
They did.
Much more dark and right.
No, that's
But the repo man would come to look for you because you can't have this body anymore. It's not yours. Yeah. So there you go.
And how many people would experiment with different genders then?
Right.
Maybe I want to be this hot girl for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when you think about it, this idea of, okay, let's control it, right? Then you begin looking at not just sterilization, but at medicines. I mean, supposing you're married and you're committed to your wife, but you don't have great sexual self-control. And you know you're going out on tour with the band, and you're going to be gone for 3 months and do, in the span of 90 days, you're going to do 40 shows.
We're not talking about you, Dave Grohl.
And right, and there was a pill you could take that would completely eliminate your sexual drive for the next 3 months.
Wow,
Right?
Probably make it a lot easier for a lot of people.
that would.
Right. You just don't have that sexual drive, right? We've got different age ranges here by about 10 years in between each of us, right? Mm-hmm. And as you get older, the idea of sex or sexual relations takes on less importance. And the idea of just, oh, this is a nice person, I'd like to hang out with this person or visit with this person. But when you're younger, your mind can't help but drift to, oh, what if I had sex with this person?
Sure.
Right? And so some of it is.
Some people never grow out of that.
Some people never grow out of it. The other thing we really haven't covered much today is that we live now so much longer than we did before. And we can look at how much trouble people have after childbearing years. A lot of these people who you see their mugshots on television, child predators or whatever, are older, over the age of childbearing. Mm. Right? So imagine that's the other thing, is that once you cross that childbearing age, they give you a pill and sex, what's that?
Yeah.
A
chemical castration.
And you don't derive any pleasure from watching sexually related kinds of things. I don't know about you guys, but there are some pictures of women that you find more attractive than others. It just, we're all different. Some say it's pheromones, the way we smell. I mean, we haven't even touched on that today, how the brain has created multiple systems for attraction, like how somebody looks. And, I'll leave you with one of my favorite studies, again, talking about how easily the mind is influenced, even given the biological drive of sexuality. So they have a group of college students, because that's who they research. And they hook them up to their skin response, electrical activity on their skin, their heart rate, their breathing. They've got this device they're wearing. And they show them pictures of attractive women, okay? And they tell them that they're going to be able to see their level of attraction by what the meter does. It's a summary of their heart rate and their breathing. But lo and behold, unknown to them, really what's happening is the researcher on the other side of the mirror is controlling the dial. Mm. And he can turn the dial up or down for certain pictures. Okay? So it's not really, is this an attractive woman, or am I getting a little aroused by looking at this woman, but rather, what does the dial say? And afterwards, the subjects are asked, they're not told what else they're going to have to do, so they don't know, are asked, please go through the pictures and rank order them and choose the ones that you find most attractive, or you found most attractive. And guess what they do?
Pick what the dial said.
Yeah, they pick what the dial said. Right? So in all of this, we shouldn't forget the mind. This artificial thing, we started our first episode this season with a discussion about the mind, this artificial creation of the physical brain that really extends beyond evolutionary explanation, but it is, and how powerful the mind is. We've talked about studies in which a person was given a stimulant, but they thought it was a sedative, and so they lay down and go to sleep. There's multiple explanations of people's minds overriding what the rest of their brain might otherwise do. And so, I would argue that the salvation for our society is using our minds and remembering that our minds are more powerful than our sexual drive. Our minds are more powerful than some hormone or some picture or some movie or something on the web. And I think our salvation as a species is to begin using our minds, which I think, unfortunately, the mind goes to the beach in the Bahamas too easily, too quickly. We stop thinking.
Especially when it comes to sex.
All right, we stop thinking. But it can be done. It can absolutely be done. It's going to require that moving forward, our species has better self-discipline. And I don't think that means that everybody has to take Ritalin every day, although studies 100 years ago with stimulants decided that everybody should take a stimulant every day, regardless of their age, because people have better self-control and better self-discipline. And
It's called coffee.
It's called coffee, right, to some extent, right. But that therein lies, I think, our future, and therein lies the future of education. That education has to shift. And next year we'll talk about education, but education has to shift from trying to fill your head with a lot of knowledge that, as most kids say, I'm never going to use this, to teaching you to think critically and developing your self-discipline and your ability to be resilient. Bob and I call that the essential triad in one of our books, the essential triad of kind of how people have to function, to be stress-hardy and resilient, to have enough self-discipline to make good choices, to do, and to learn how to think critically, to think critically. And they all go together, right? You can have critical thinking, but if you're impulsive, it doesn't do any good, right? The three have to go together, and we have to teach children how to do those things. So it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And an
Sam,
interesting
James, season
series
one,
of
folks.
episodes.
Thanks to our brainers out there. Thank you to our brainers. Thank you to Sam and James for a great season one. And now treat your big brain with a little music from the band Sigmund Freud.
And if you listen to their stories,
Just because we said it doesn't mean it's true. You're on your own.